I stood by the glass wall of my office, the entire atrium of the mall spread out beneath me like a living painting. Shoppers floated in and out of stores, their chatter rising in soft waves, the hum of escalators blending with faint music from the food court. From this height, the chaos looked almost elegant, like I had orchestrated it myself. And in a way, I had. The silk of my blouse whispered against my skin as I adjusted it, a subtle reminder of how far I'd come from the days when polyester uniforms and clearance rack shoes were all I could afford. I traced the edge of my bracelet, the one piece of jewelry I wore every day, almost unconsciously, my private anchor to the girl I used to be. My phone buzzed on the desk behind me. I didn't have to look at the screen to know it would be another congratulatory message. Word had spread quickly. Emily Carter, once the girl everyone mocked for running a failing little store at the edge of town, had just purchased the entire Willow Creek Mall. But as I picked up the phone, my lips curved into a wry smile. The message wasn't from a journalist, or a partner, or one of my investors. No, it was from her. The very woman who used to laugh the loudest. We should catch up. I heard some big news. For a moment, I just stared at the words, my heart tightening with a mix of irony and memory. They had mocked my store. Now they'd walk through doors I owned. I was 22 the day I opened my first store. Not a glamorous boutique, not even in a polished little coffee shop with Instagram-worthy corners, just a tiny thrift store tucked between a laundromat and a pawn shop. The sign above the door read Second Chances, painted in white over a board I'd salvaged from a construction site. It was all I could afford, and honestly, I thought the name had a ring to it. But people didn't see promise when they looked at it. They saw failure before I'd even had a chance to begin. I remember the first week clearly. The way my hands trembled while I arranged the mismatched hangers, how the smell of detergent from the laundromat mixed with the faint scent of dust that clung to the racks. I tried to smile at passersby, but most avoided eye contact. Some stopped just long enough to sneer. One afternoon, as I was setting out a box of used books near the entrance, I heard laughter. Familiar laughter. My cousin Jenna, perfect hair, perfect nails, arm in arm with two of her friends. She glanced at my store and rolled her eyes so dramatically I thought they might get stuck. "Really, Emily?" she said loud enough for the sidewalk to hear. "This is your big dream? Selling other people's junk." Her friends burst into giggles. My face burned. I wanted to shrink, disappear into the concrete. But instead, I kept my hands busy, straightening the pile of paperbacks even though they didn't need straightening. That night, I locked the store, sank onto the creaky stool behind the counter, and cried until my throat ached. I thought about quitting, thought about applying to some office job where at least nobody would laugh. But then I remembered my grandmother's voice. She'd passed a year earlier, but before she did, she'd pressed her silver bracelet into my palm. "Promise me, Emily," she'd said, "you'll never let anyone else decide your worth. Build something you believe in, even if they laugh." I touched that bracelet now, feeling the cool metal against my skin. Her words replayed like a song I couldn't shake. The next morning, I unlocked the store again. My eyes were swollen, my heart still heavy, but there was steel in my spine. Let them laugh. Let them call it junk. I wasn't closing. Not yet. That was the day I decided. If the world wasn't going to give me a place, I'd carve one out myself, even if it meant bleeding for it. The early months were brutal. I worked 12-hour days, 7 days a week, trying to stretch every dollar until it begged for mercy. Rent was late more than once, and more than once I wondered if Jenna was right, that I was wasting my time chasing a dream built on junk. But then came Mrs. Lawson. She was in her 60s, a retired schoolteacher with sharp eyes and a kind smile. She stepped into Second Chances one rainy afternoon, dripping from her umbrella, and spent nearly an hour combing through the shelves. Finally, she left with a stack of books and a knitted cardigan. At the register, she paused and said, "Don't let them tell you it's nothing, dear. You've got an eye. You made me feel like I found treasure today." Her words were small, but they lit something inside me. More customers began trickling in. A young mom hunting for affordable clothes for her kids. A college student looking for cheap textbooks. Slowly, quietly, my little store started becoming a haven for people who couldn't afford brand new but still wanted something of value. I learned to hustle. I scouted estate sales and auctions, drove miles to pick up boxes of forgotten antiques, and taught myself how to refinish furniture using YouTube tutorials. I stayed up until dawn sanding wood, repainting frames, steaming old dresses until they looked nearly new. My hands blistered, my eyes ached, but every time I sold one of those pieces for enough profit to cover the electric bill, I felt like I'd conquered the world. One evening, as I was loading a cracked mirror into the back of my beat-up Honda, a man approached. He introduced himself as David Miller, owner of a mid-sized chain of furniture stores. "I've seen you at these auctions a few times," he said, adjusting his glasses. "You've got an instinct. Have you ever thought of scaling this?" I laughed nervously. Scaling? I'm barely keeping the lights on. But he saw something I didn't. David started mentoring me, teaching me about margins, wholesale sourcing, and the importance of branding. "You're not selling junk," he told me firmly. "You're selling stories. Make people see that." With his guidance, I shifted. I rebranded Second Chances as a vintage lifestyle boutique, started hosting weekend events, and built an online presence. Orders began to come from outside town. One morning, I shipped a refurbished coffee table all the way to Denver, and when the customer posted about it online, my website traffic tripled overnight. Still, I kept quiet about it all. To the world, to my family, I was just running that little shop. On social media, I posted modest updates, never the full picture. I learned to enjoy the power of being underestimated. While they laughed, I built. While they whispered, I stacked every dollar into the foundation of something bigger. By the time my cousin Jenna had finished her MBA and taken a job she bragged about at every family dinner, I had quietly expanded into 3 stores. No one in my family knew. To them, I was still the girl behind the counter of a dusty thrift shop. And honestly, I preferred it that way. Because someday, when the truth came out, I wanted the shock to taste as sharp as the laughter I once swallowed. The news broke on a Thursday morning. Local entrepreneur buys Willow Creek Mall in multi-million-dollar deal. By noon, my phone was buzzing like a hive. Investors, partners, reporters, everyone wanted a piece of the story. But it wasn't their voices that echoed in my head. It was the laughter. That day years ago on the sidewalk, Jenna's sharp words cutting through my pride like glass. By Friday, I knew it was only a matter of time before she showed up. And I wasn't wrong. I was in my office on the top floor of the mall, a sweeping corner space with floor-to-ceiling windows, when my assistant buzzed. "Emily, there's a Jenna Miller here to see you." I took a slow breath, smoothed my blouse, and told her to send her in. The door opened and there she was. Still perfectly polished, still dripping with the kind of confidence money couldn't buy but privilege often gifted. She scanned the office with wide eyes, lingering on the art pieces, the sleek furniture, the sprawling view of the atrium below. "Wow," she said, her voice uncertain for the first time I could remember. This is yours." I let her look. I let the silence stretch, every second tightening the rope of suspense. Finally, I leaned back in my chair and answered softly. "Yes. All of it." She blinked. "The mall?" "The mall," I repeated, letting the words hang heavy between us. "The same mall you used to shop in while mocking me for selling junk." Her cheeks flushed pink. She laughed nervously, the sound brittle. "Oh, come on, Emily. That was years ago. We were just kids." I rose from my chair and walked to the window, watching shoppers wander in and out of stores below. "Kids or not, your words cut deep. Do you know what it feels like to have your dreams dismissed? To have people laugh at the only thing you can afford to build?" She shifted on her feet. I didn't mean. I turned to face her, the bracelet at my wrist catching the light. "You did mean it. And you weren't the only one. But here's the thing. Every laugh, every whisper, every eye roll, it became fuel. And now, Jenna, I own the very ground you're standing on." The silence that followed was delicious. For once, she had no clever comeback, no smug remark. Just wide, stunned eyes that reflected a truth she couldn't swallow. A knock interrupted us. My assistant poked her head in. Emily, your uncle and Anne are here too. They said they wanted to congratulate you in person. Of course. My family had always assumed I'd fail quietly, like a background character in their story. But now that the headlines screamed my success, they suddenly wanted front row seats. I nodded, and moments later, they walked in, my uncle with his forced smile, my aunt clutching a designer handbag like it was armor. They stopped short, taking in the office, the view, me standing tall behind the massive oak desk. You've done well for yourself, my uncle said, voice tight. I studied them carefully. Once, their disapproval had crushed me. Once, I'd cried myself to sleep over their lack of belief.
But now?
Now I felt nothing but clarity. I didn't just do well, I said evenly. I rebuilt my life from the ashes of your laughter. You all mocked my store. But today you're standing in a mall I bought. The words settled over the room like a final verdict. Their eyes darted around the office, to the gold-plated plaque on my desk, to the branded documents stacked neatly in folders. The truth was undeniable. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one shrinking under their gaze. They were. The silence in my office was almost theatrical. Jenna stood stiffly near the window, arms crossed, while my uncle and aunt shifted uncomfortably in their seats across from me. They had walked in expecting what? A grateful girl ready to bask in their approval? An insecure niece, still desperate for validation? Instead, they found me, the woman they had dismissed, underestimated, laughed at, and now couldn't ignore. I folded my hands on the desk.
So,
you came here today because of the headlines. Because suddenly, I'm worth noticing. My aunt cleared her throat. Emily, that's not fair. We've always wanted the best for you. Did you? I cut in, my voice calm but sharp. Because I remember your words when I opened my store. I remember the pitying looks, the whispered jokes at family dinners. You didn't see potential. You saw failure. Their eyes dropped to the floor. For once, I didn't feel small under their judgment. They felt small under mine. Jenna finally spoke. Look, Emily, maybe we weren't supportive, but you've proven yourself. You've done something incredible. And honestly, I'd love to learn from you. I've been struggling at my job lately. If there's any way you could mentor me, or maybe bring me into your business. There it was.
The ask.
I leaned back, studying her. For years, I'd imagined this moment, her pride cracking, her voice tinged with desperation. I thought I'd enjoy it more, but all I felt was clarity. I don't owe you anything, I said evenly. But if you really want my help, it comes with conditions. Her brows knit. Conditions? Yes. I stood, moving around the desk, letting the heels of my shoes echo against the floor. First, humility. No more mocking people chasing their dreams. If you want a place in my world, you lift others up instead of tearing them down. Jenna swallowed hard but nodded. I turned to my aunt and uncle. Second, honesty. Stop pretending to care only when success is visible. Families should show up for the struggle, not just the celebration. If you can't do that, then don't bother showing up at all. They looked like I'd slapped them, but I didn't flinch. And third, I added softly, almost to myself, respect. For me, for what I've built, and for anyone else brave enough to risk everything for a dream. The room was heavy with silence again, but it was a different kind of silence, weighted with realization, with the beginning of change. I returned to my chair, resting my hand lightly on the silver bracelet at my wrist. I will help if you meet those conditions. If not, you're welcome to walk out and continue pretending I'm the same girl you laughed at years ago. The choice is yours. Their eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw something I had never seen in them before. Not pity, not doubt, but respect. Uneasy, reluctant, but real. And that was enough. In the weeks that followed, I noticed small shifts. Jenna called less to boast and more to listen. She began volunteering at a local shelter, teaching young women how to build resumes and apply for jobs. My aunt started checking in, not to pry or criticize, but to genuinely ask how I was doing. And my uncle, though still stiff in his pride, admitted one evening over dinner, I misjudged you, Emily. We all did. It wasn't a fairy tale transformation. People don't change overnight. But there was movement, like cracks forming in old walls, letting light seep through. And for me, that was enough. One evening, after a long day of meetings, I walked through them all alone. The shops were closing, the air filled with the scent of cinnamon rolls from the food court and the distant hum of janitors polishing floors. I stopped at the railing of the second floor, looking down at the atrium, the same view I had admired from my office. My fingers instinctively traced the silver bracelet at my wrist. Grandma's words replayed in my mind. Promise me you'll never let anyone else decide your worth. I smiled, a slow, quiet smile that carried the weight of everything I had endured. Because she had been right. Their laughter hadn't defined me. It had propelled me. Every tear, every rejection, every long night sanding furniture and scrubbing shelves had built this moment. I thought about the girl I had been, the one with trembling hands arranging mismatched hangers, fighting back tears while cousins mocked her. And I wished I could reach back in time, touch her shoulder and whisper, "Hold on. They'll laugh now, but one day they'll shop under your roof." As the last lights of the mall flickered out, I stood there a little longer, breathing in the silence. I wasn't bitter anymore. The revenge wasn't in their shame. It was in my survival, my success, my unshakable strength. I whispered softly, as if speaking to the memory of every laugh I had endured, every doubt I had carried. They mocked my store. Now I bought them all. And with that, I turned and walked away, heels clicking against the polished floor, head held high, finally, completely free.